Okay, so I guess let's get started. So today we will just go talk about Selenium, and more specifically, we're going to talk about Python Selenium. So what is Selenium? So it's an open source web-based automation tool or framework. So what does open source mean? So essentially, it's just a piece of software that is not privately licensed. And open source software is a software with license that you can modify the source code. Like you can inspect it, modify it, and enhance it. So, and basically, you can volunteer anytime to join the team and add features and then just help to improve the software. And Selenium is released under Apache License 2.0, so that means you're allowed to use it for commercial purposes, and you can modify and distribute this tool in any way or shape or form you like. So it's free and anybody can use it. So what can you do in Selenium? So if you were at I think the last workshop, yeah, we went over web scraping. So yeah, Selenium is a similar idea where it doesn't really read the data from the web. So it's different from web scraping. I mean, it can, but it's mostly used to interact with the web directly, and it is much more powerful if you want to automate an action to do. So yeah, Selenium comes in different languages, so not just Python, but we will go over Python today. So for example, what you can do is you can send customized commands to the browser, so you can interact with HTML from a website directly, such as navigation. You can click a button, you can fill in an input, and you can also grab the data from the HTML. So yeah, such as like finding something from the source code or reading the entire source code. So yes, you can use Selenium to perform web scraping, and it's actually pretty convenient if you want to use it. So it is used to test different aspects of the website, and you can also develop bots to automate tasks for you. So essentially, if you think about it, anything you can do to a browser or website, a human can do. Selenium can do it for you. I'll just quickly talk about the advantages. So yes, like I said, Selenium, you have the freedom to do whatever you want. It's pretty portable, and you can automate tasks that takes time to do manually. And it supports multiple programming languages. So the supported languages includes Python, Ruby, Java, C Sharp, Groovy, PHP, JavaScript, and etc. I don't want to say all languages, but at this point you can see it as like mostly any language, any popular languages that's on the market today. Selenium is supported. And yes, there are some advantages as well. So you have limited technical support. Well, because this piece of software is open sourced, so that means you're probably not gonna get too much technical support if you need it. And I don't want to assume this, but I guess it's hard for beginners if you want to, no matter like how you define beginners, but it can be tricky to learn, especially like the harder languages such as Java and C Sharp. But today we are doing Python Selenium, so I'm assuming it's not going to be too hard for most of you. And yes, if you want to write tests using Seleniums, it's going to take longer. However, it's actually faster to execute the test you wrote. Yes? Oh, okay. Uh, can you guys see this? I'm just
Yeah.
going back at this point. Okay, cool. You can just put in the chat if you can see this. Okay. That's odd. Okay, try the custom settings in screen sharing. just navigating through the pages. Let me know if it's smooth. Okay. Okay, cool. So, well, there really wasn't too much in the slides. We'll just go over the boring part first, which you can just hear me speak if you really wanted to. But yeah, essentially, Selenium is for web automation, and you can interact with the website from Python directly. So you can use it to make bots, and you can also use it to test your website. And advantages, yeah, you have the freedom to do whatever you want. It's portable, blah blah blah, and yes, multiple programming languages. And so yes, it supports basically all the modern languages and maybe all, but probably not all languages. And disadvantages again, just limited. We have limited technical support because it's open sourced. So essentially, everybody is just volunteers, and it's hard for beginners if you choose to use Selenium with other languages. But for Python, it's actually extremely easy. And yes, it takes longer to write tests, but it's faster if you want to execute them. And then we're just going to talk about Selenium Python now. So Selenium is offered in a pip package, and it requires a driver. So this driver is essentially a fake browser for Selenium. Um, so the Selenium will control this driver, which essentially is the browser, and you can run tests and trigger actions. And yeah, you can think of the driver as like an environment for Python Selenium to do its job. So it's not really a typical browser you use, but it's a browser designed for Python to use. So yes, Selenium then can send commands to this driver, which can be used to execute your actions or whatever you want to do. So yeah, it's a physical binary file stored in a public directory, and it's often in an executable format. And it's often hard to initialize and it's hard to work together in a team. So let's say you have a script, but if you like put the driver in different path, Python doesn't know. So you guys have to work together to get basically plan how you guys want to work. So yeah, it's kind of hard if you want to use Selenium together in a team. Do this approach. So the most popular driver is the Chrome driver because just like how Chrome is like the most popular browser, Chrome is also the most popular browser for Python Selenium. Uh, Also, this approach is usually not available for Chromebook users, but I found a way this time to go around in Replit. So let's take a look let's get hands-on now. So yeah, that was all the boring stuff. So let me share my entire screen now. Again, not sure if this is going to work. Just let me know if you can see my Discord. Yeah, so you can just put in the chat if you can see the screen share. Hmm. What if I change Windows? What if I just share my Replit tab? Can you guys see this now instead of the whole screen? Okay, okay, great. So yeah, okay, so essentially, notice how I said it often requires a driver. So essentially, I can show you what I mean by that. So if you actually go to Chrome driver, and so basically your Chrome browser is powered by this Chrome driver, and Python Selenium can also use this driver to run tests and perform actions. So if you're on Windows, or I guess the older approach, what you have to do is you have to download this, and then you have to extract it, and then you have to put it in a public path, and then you have to tell in your script where this file is located in. But what I found is I found a great package to go around this. So it's Web Manager if you are a Windows user, so you can actually install this. But this is still not going to work for regular Replit for Chromebook Replit users. So I'm just going to do the demonstration for Chromebook users this time. So there's a way around this. So first thing you want to do is you want to install Selenium. So in the shell, you can just run pip install Selenium. And then pretty fast. And at this point, so we have to import some packages from our Selenium framework. So the first thing I want to import the driver. So from Selenium, let's import WebDriver. Okay, so this right here is like the environment, the testing environment. Oh, and by the way, for this example, I actually made a really crappy calculator just for you. So just to demonstrate what Selenium can do. So yes, you can enter input, and you can add, you can subtract, you can multiply, you can divide. So essentially, this is just to simulate how you can enter text in inputs, and you can also simulate button presses, and you can also read results. So if you want to follow along, I'm going to put this in the announcement. Not a fancy calculator, but it does the job. Okay, so we want to import WebDriver, so this is the testing environment. And usually we can just get started and code from now, from here. But because we're using Replit, we actually have to do more. So we have to tell Selenium that we are not in like a regular Windows or Mac or Linux environment. So what we have to do is let's import selenium.webdriver .chrome.options, and then let's import options. So I'm just going to create a new object, Chrome options. And then let's add some arguments to this option so that we can make Selenium work with Replit, which is amazing. So let's add an argument. So add underscore arguments, and then let's pass in dash dash no sandbox. And then let's add another argument. So Chrome options dot add underscore argument. And now this is let's dash dash disable dev shm usage. Okay, now we made this Chrome options object. Now let's initialize this to our driver. So let's create a driver equals webdriver.chrome. Now there's not really there's all browsers in there, so you can use Internet Explorer, you can use Firefox, you can use Opera, but again, Chrome is still the most popular, even if this is Python, Chrome is still often the most popular option for people to use Selenium with. So yes, let's use Chrome, so webdriver.chrome, and then let's pass in our options we just defined. So options equals Chrome options, like this. So at this point, if you are on Replit, you can use this approach. Now, if you are following along in Windows, what you can actually do is you can install a new package. I think it's called Web Manager or WebDriver Manager. So pip install WebDriver Manager. So what this does is that you don't have to manually download this and then put this somewhere on your computer. It will just automatically download it for you and store this in cache. And whenever you're finished, it's going to delete it for you. So it's temporary and it's pretty convenient if you are following along, not using Replit. But I'm just going to stick with Replit for now. Okay, so what we actually need to do now is we need to initialize a place for this driver to go. So which is this URL, this website. So what we can do is just we can run driver.get and then let's pass in our website or URL. And let me format this a bit. Well, I think it's fine. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so at this point, if we run this, let's see what we get. There, so essentially it initialized a virtual environment for this quote Chrome browser. So I don't know Replit, I don't know how long this will take, but fingers crossed and let's hope something happens. Don't think I hit run, but I think it's just Replit being slow. Okay, there we go. As you can see, this driver.get opens up a virtual browser, which is our Chrome driver here, and then we told it to go to our website, which if you go here, if you like go on a human, quote, human Chrome, and as you can see, this is the exact same website, and over here, as you can see, it says Chrome is being controlled by automated test software, which means this browser might look like Chrome, but this is not designed for you to use it. This is designed for a test software like Selenium to use. Okay, so now let's see what we can interact now. So we told the Selenium driver to go to this website. So we can actually get the title, for example. There's a lot more you can do, but I'm just going to do the demonstrate the simple stuff. So as you can see, it prints the title, which is over here, my calculator. Nothing fancy, but yes, you can use driver to interact with your website or your web app and get the title from it. Okay, so now we want to do the fun stuff, which is we want to interact with our calculator without us touching it. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit inspect and let's see what our website is made up of. So we have two inputs and we have an ID imp1 and then an ID of imp2. So this is good to know. So I'm just going to copy this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable called our input. So input1, let's set this to driver.find element by ID. Now, if you are a JavaScript dev, this sounds really similar. So essentially, it's the same idea. We are trying to find an element on our website by ID. So again, if you go back to ID, if I zoom in a bit, uh, so yes, ID of imp1. So I'm just going to pass this in. And then let's see what we can do now. Well, what we can actually do is we want to send some information to this input. So let's import something else. So instill Selenium. We don't have to install anything extra. So let's import Selenium WebDriver.common.keys, and then let's import keys. And this allows us to send information to this input. So now we can just take our input we just defined, and then let's say send keys. Let's try 6. As you can see, it hit 6, and I swear it wasn't me. It's actually Selenium that passed the 6 into this input. So in order for you to believe me, I'm just going to import this time package from Python. This is a built-in package. And over here, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to let this sleep for like 3 seconds. So sleep 3. So it's going to enter 6 to our input after 3 seconds. So 1, 2, and 3. There we go. 6 is entered there. And again, this is not me entering 6. This is actually Python Selenium doing this for us. Okay, now let's try our input 2, which is exactly the same. So I'm just going to copy this exact same code and put it below here. So this is going to be input 2. And ID, if you go back, this is imp2 now. So let's just replace our ID. And then input 2, let's try 2 this time. So if we click on run, so 3 seconds is going to input the first number, and then wait another 3 seconds is going to enter the second number. Okay, there we go. So that's essentially web automation, which means you're letting Python sending commands to this browser and then to do whatever you want it to do. Okay, so now let's see how we can simulate a button press. So let's try this add button here. Okay, notice how this add button doesn't have a class, or it also doesn't have an ID. So what can we do at this point? So what we can do is we can right click this and then we can copy the X path. So we can use this X path to get our button. So I'm just going to say add button, creating a new object in Python. Let's set it to driver define element by XPath this time. So we don't have a class and we don't have an ID. So we're just going to use XPath by XPath here. And then let's just pass this in here. And what is XPath? So XPath is just the query language used for selecting nodes from an XML document, XML documents, which in this case is HTML. And I'm sure from your web dev workshops that you learned that HTML is just a special kind of XML. So essentially, each node is essentially just an HTML element. So nothing fancy. We can just find the whatever element we want and copy its XPath, and it's going to be unique. So it doesn't matter if you don't have ID or class, it's always going to be unique. Okay, so now we have this add button. So what can we do with this? Well, we want to click this add button. And again, this is not complicated either. We just say add button dot click. And then if we run this, so 3 seconds is going to enter 6, and then another 3 seconds is going to enter 2, and then there, 6 plus 2 is 8. So what if I make another time.sleep over here? So let's wait on 3 seconds, and then let's make the button click, or 2 seconds, because I don't want to waste anybody's time here. So we get 6, and then another 3 seconds, we get 2, and then it's going to press this add button, and we get 8. There we go. So what can we do with this? Well, we can parse this into a function if you want. So I am just going to wrap this in a function. So I'm just going to call this calculate. Let's have some parameters. So number 1, number 2, and then let's take in the actual button. So what button we want to use. And then we can also have an expect, because notice how we said seleniums can be used to write test. So we can just make test to see if this is actually what we want. But even simpler, what we can do is, if you want, I will just leave this as an exercise for you if you want to parse this into a function yourself. But I'm just going to undo back, and then I'm just going to write a test here. So what we actually want to do is we actually want to get our result. So notice how this is a span of ID answer. So at this point, what I want to do is just web script this ID. So let's create another variable results. Let's set this to driver.get element, find element by ID. So this has a span of ID answer. So I'm just going to pass this in. And then let's get the result. So let's print result.text. Okay, now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to set two variables. Number 1 equals, let's say, 5. Number 2, let's set this to 9. And what do we want to do? We want to add them. So expect, so let's expect equals number 1 plus number 2. Now I'm sure y'all know the answer, which is 14. And let's print result.text and see if this is 14. So I'm going to send the string version of our number 1, and then the string of number 2, and then let's print result.text. See if this is 14. So 3 seconds, it's going to enter 5, and another 3 seconds, it's going to enter 9, and then let's press add. There we go, and this is 14. And as you can see down here, it printed 14. So how can you use this to write test? Well, you can just add an assert here. So let's assert our result is the same as expect, or the string version of expect, because that's going to return a number. So the string of expect, so text or expect.text. Yes. Okay. So if this test passes, which means our calculator does the job, so 5 plus 9 give us 14, then nothing is going to happen because this is true. Let's say we live in a universe where 5 plus 9 equals 5. And this calculator is wrong. Let's see what happens here. Well, I could have just made the time a bit faster. But as you can see, our assert actually raised an error saying that our result, the text 14, does not equal to 5, which means at this point, you know something is wrong with your website. So essentially, this is the most basic thing you can do with Selenium. And you can do much more complicated thing with Selenium. For example, we can make a Twitter automation bot. So make a Python script that can send or can make tweets for you. And you can also use it to log in to like your account or something. And basically, just in summary, anything you can do, you can make Selenium do it for you. And then you can make bots and just have fun with it. So, does anybody have any questions? Okay, great. I'm assuming not. But yes, so if you want a challenge, you can parse this into a function and then write your own test script. And or you can actually find your favorite website and then do something with it. Now just be careful though, some website doesn't allow automated test software, so you might get banned. I don't know, but yes. Yes, just like Sohail said, there's a lot of tutorials if you want to if you want if that's what you want to do with Selenium, go ahead. So yeah, thank you guys for coming. I will release the attendance form shortly.